No final decision could be made last night with how the teams wanted to continue with the NBA playoffs. LeBron and both LA teams reportedly voted to not continue playing, but were the only teams to do so. And meetings this morning are currently underway to determine how to move forward as we wait for the latest. Chris Broussard still with us. Chris, I would like to know how you see this playing out right now.
Well, yesterday I felt like after a few days, the players would likely resume playing. But obviously, we've seen the reports about the Lakers and Clippers voting for the season to end. And if that's the case, if that remains the case today, I don't see how they play. You know, Udonis Haslem is right in that without the Lakers and the Clippers, you can't have a playoff. I was surprised about this with the Lakers, too, because obviously, as socially active as LeBron has been, we know how important this championship was to him, and he's obviously not getting any younger. The Clippers, I wasn't surprised because I've been hearing rumblings even before they went down to the bubble that they really didn't, a lot of them really didn't want to go for various reasons, social justice and also COVID. So I wasn't as surprised about them. I actually thought about changing my pick of them winning the championship because I was wondering were they going to be all in mentally. I obviously stuck with it. But I think it all hinges on what the Lakers and the Clippers decide because I think as they go, the league will go.
I agree. I think that has a lot to do with it. I think sometimes you don't want to make any decision when you're in an emotional state. And I think yesterday, because everybody was so emotional, all the feelings were raw, you don't want to make a hasty decision. Take time off. You go to bed. You think about it like, okay, as you're lying in your room, you think, okay, is this the wisest decision? Is this the best decision? Is there another way around that we can get make the same impact without doing something so drastic? And maybe they come to the conclusion they can. Maybe they come to the conclusion in order for us to have the impact that we actually going to generate change, this is what needs to be done. I agree, but I'm not surprised because at the end of the day, Chris, is what Skip and I was talking about earlier. Every day you live your life, everything you say, you're writing your eulogy. And LeBron James does not want the only thing that when people talk about him when he's lying in rest is that he was a basketball player. That's become abundantly clear to me, especially over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Ever since Trayvon Martin, it's become very clear to me. Not only is LeBron James morally conscious, he's socially conscious. And so I think that's weighing on him because what he thought was going to happen, the platform, and he still has it, is still he sees a Jacob Blake. And he sees the situation that is not going away. And so I think that's weighing heavily on him and a lot of guys in the bubble.
I don't want to try to undercut or dilute the emotion of the impact from last night, but I'm just going to reiterate what Chris Haynes told us from inside the bubble a few minutes ago on the show here. His gut feeling is that the Lakers and Clippers will come back around today to playing with some caveats, with some conditions, which are that LeBron needs to hear directly from some owners that some real action will be taken now, not later. I don't know if he can pull that off quickly. I don't know how many more games will get boycotted. The great irony of this is the players don't want to be down there any longer than they have to be. And now, if you boycott for a little while, it's going to push them if they decide to finish. Now you got to stay an extra week or whatever.
Well, you do believe today's game will be canceled also,
I do. Right? I don't know how you cannot cancel today. But from here on, my gut feeling is they will play. Obviously, social justice is hugely important to LeBron. But as you always tell me, two things can be true.
Correct.
And I still believe that championship, that sprint to this finish line, end of year 17, is also somewhat important enough that he would go ahead and finish.
Yeah. Obviously, the sports fans and all of us, we want to see them play. But I will say this. If they decide not to play, I think that will put tremendous pressure on the NFL players not to play, particularly the black ones. And if they didn't play, then this goes to an entirely different level. And that's when I think, I mean, we're talking about a lot more money. We're talking about a much more popular sport. We're talking about a sport that hits a larger diversity, racial diversity of fans. So I think it could be incredibly powerful if that happened, because I don't know how the black players in the NFL, if the NBA players didn't play, it would put a lot of pressure on them not to play. And I think that'd be huge.
And I tell you what it would do, Skip. There will be no compromising on the Dallas Cowboys. I believe that ship.
True.
I believe that ship is sailed.
That's true.
After what the NBA players did yesterday, and the stance that they could potentially take, the compromise is over. That ship is sailed.
Kneeling or not kneeling.
Right. Yes.
Agreed.
Right.
Chris, we appreciate you joining us, sharing your thoughts on this. And guys, we're going to stay talking about how this will impact other sports moving forward.
Because of what the Milwaukee Bucks have done. I love that LeBron said in the meeting, we need to begin holding owners accountable, because I believe these owners have power. They are wealthy. They are corporate titans. They are connected to lawmakers, to politicians, to police commissioners and chiefs. They have incredible power. Meek Mill, just look at that situation. Meek Mill, the rapper, was in jail for 5 months. Jay-Z, Rick Ross, Kevin Hart, members of the Philadelphia Eagles and other athletes were trying to get him out of jail. Robert Kraft and Michael Rubin, owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, obviously Kraft, the Patriots, they go and visit Meek Mill and say he shouldn't be here. And in 2 weeks, he's out of jail. In 2 weeks. And then the judge is removed off the case is dropped, and everything changes.
And all the charges dropped.
Power. Right. That's the power that these guys have, even more so than a LeBron James and other guys. But a LeBron James has the power to push them to get them to do this. They can support his More Than a Vote campaign, open up all their arenas for voters and fight against voter suppression. There's a lot of things they can do. So that is part of the plan. But I'm going to be honest. Even if there's no plan, I salute these athletes for standing up and saying, you know what? We are done entertaining America until America respects us fully as equal and fellow human beings. And not just us, but all black Americans. There is a long history in this country of blacks entertaining whites with singing, dancing, foot races, boxing, wrestling, dating all the way back to the slave plantation. So that shows you whites can enjoy the physical gifts of African Americans and enjoy being entertained by us without respecting our humanity. And I think that's what these players are feeling when they see what's happening, Jacob Blake and so on and so forth. They may not even be able to put it, some of them, in that historical context, but that is what they are feeling. So I salute them for saying no more status quo. We want to be respected as men. And I'll lastly say this. Did Muhammad Ali have a plan? No. Muhammad Ali just acted on his convictions. He came to a point, he said, I've got to stand by my convictions. I don't know what's going to happen from here. I may never fight again, but I'm standing up as a man on my convictions for what I believe and for my people. And that is what these players are doing, even if they don't have a plan. And Muhammad Ali obviously is the most beloved and athlete in the world now. So I hope, that we'll see how this goes further, but that's my general reaction, and I got nothing but respect for these dudes.
I agree with you, Chris. And I think today's athletes are not only socially conscious, they're morally conscious as well. Because I think sometimes, they were conflicted. I mean, morally, they knew the right thing to do. But before, Skip, if you spoke out anything was political, your sponsors dropped you. So you could be morally, but you didn't want to be socially, because I want to hold on to this $100,000 contract. I want to hold on to this $1 million contract. So you were morally conflicted because morally you knew the right thing to do. But socially, if you came out public with it, it could cost you. Now these guys are morally and socially conscious and I don't care. And for the most part, their sponsors have stayed on board with them. You see, you said something. You see how quick that happened, Skip? Robert Kraft, what Jay-Z and all these prominent blacks, Jay-Z's worth $1 billion.
Yep.
What all these prominent blacks couldn't do, Robert Kraft and Michael Rubin went and got done in 2 weeks. So in other words, if these owners, these wealthy white owners in the NFL and the NBA were to say, you know what, Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Nadler. This is what we need to get done. You say America's, but look, this notion that America was founded, America is working exactly how it was intended to work, Skip. Because you know the founding fathers, there's only certain ones that were in there. They were what, Skip? They were wealthy, they were white, landowners, slave owners. That was it. So in other words, if you fit that criteria, kind of like today, you have power if you're wealthy, you white, you own land, or you're in corporations. So America's working how it was intended to work. But black weren't meant to have power. That's why you enslaved them. That's why you put Jim Crow. That's why you enacted laws. So we need, and LeBron is absolutely right. Jeannie Buss, Mark Cuban, I get it. Yeah, we appreciate the slogans. We appreciate the hashtags. We appreciate the symbols that America, you take down these symbols, these Confederate generals off military establishments. Okay, you rename a school, you rename a building for John Lewis, and maybe there's another MLK Street going up somewhere in America. But enough of the symbols, we want substance. We want